Hey, welcome back. She is still Ash Ortega.
And she is still Michelle Santo.
And you are still listening to The Spookiness of It All. Spooky, spooky. Hey guys, we are back. We are here with episode 4. Now, I know in the last episode I actually told you guys I was going to talk with you guys about a subject that I really enjoy called the Marfa lights, but I haven't had time to do my research yet. But we have other stuff that we are working on, and today we're just going to talk to you guys about our own personal experiences. This is more going to be Ash's episode than my episode, just because what she's going to talk about is a lot more in depth than probably what I'm going to talk about. So we're going to let her do the majority of the talking for this episode. However, you know that I'm going to be jumping in there with my little comments and my little humor. Ash will be with us in just a second. Girl, she's putting on a face, you know.
Oh, I'm just doing my eyelashes. I'm here. All
right, girl. All right. So, the other day, you know what? I'm going to do the research for the Crash at Crush, and I'm going to tell the actual official story of Crash at Crush soon.
Nice.
But Ash is going to talk about some stuff that she personally has experienced, and it is fallout from the Crash at Crush. Brief synopsis: there was this ignorant fool that decided to see what would happen if he let two speeding locomotives smash into each other. This happened outside of the town of West Comet, Texas. Like I said, I have to do the research. I'm going to tell you the whole story at some point. I don't know the exact year. I just know it was a long ass time ago. So, but what Ash is going to tell you, because like she has mentioned in a previous episode, she does actually not necessarily hail from, but was raised in the town of West Comet, Texas. So Ash, with that little intro, kind of tell us what's going on.
So I can't give an exact address, of course, but I will tell you, and you're gonna laugh. I lived on Easy Road, and in high school that was a thing. Everybody thought that was a kicker, because, you know, the goth girl lived on Easy Road. And but it is on Easy Road. It's off Tourism West. I used to live there. I won't give the address, but
well, you know, the first thing that came to my mind, being the musician that I am, the first thing that came to my mind was "Take it easy, take it easy." Had to be the Eagles. Anyway, I apologize for interrupting.
So
spray that face, sister. Spray that face.
Oh yeah, no, I got to set this. Well, I gotta fix it. I'm fixing it, then I'll set it later. But yeah, so we lived out there, and the entire time we were there, we had a number of very interesting occurrences. But this particular occurrence happened to me and 3 other of my neighbors. And we, to this day, still can't explain it. I did speak to my dad recently about it, and he remembers, and he refreshed my memory on a lot of it on Christmas Eve. And I will say that, hands down, it was the single most unexplainable event in my entire life. Other than the fact that, you know, having kids 10 years apart, also unexplainable.
I'm intrigued, listeners, and I'll tell you why, because I have heard this story many times, but with Papa Ortega refreshing some memory, I am excited to hear what's the new skinny.
Well, it's just more from his perspective, and like, you know, you got to think, my dad was in law enforcement. And he's not a little man. He's not fat by any means either, but he's very muscular. Best way I can describe him is a very handsome but pissed off Antonio Banderas with muscles. That is my father.
I still see Danny Trejo. In my mind, I still see Danny Trejo.
No, Danny Trejo is just not as cute as my papa. Like, my papa is adorable. But, like, he's just got a pretty face. He still looks like he's 35.
Still, though, but Danny Trejo is hot AF.
Yeah, I mean, Danny Trejo, he's got his own little He's hot in a penal code kind of way. But I will
I'll get
say,
married by proxy, baby. Come on.
I'm going to step outside so that way I can talk a little louder because my youngin' is asleep. Ignore the chickens. But yeah, long story short, I was about 10 years old, and we were living in West Tacoma, Texas, on Easy Road, like you do.
Like you do.
Mm-hmm. And it was about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, I had my window open. Facts, I wasn't supposed to let my cat in the house. And I had this cat named Patches, and I loved her. And she was a slut, though, and she kept having babies. And so she had to stay outside because she kept having cats in the house.
Facts, if you'd have let her stay in the house, she wouldn't have got pregnant.
Dude, right? But then the kittens and all the things, and it's a mess. She had kittens on my head. That's a whole nother story. So I was forbidden to have Kitty inside, and so I would be a cheeky little monkey, and I'd have my blinds all the way up. Mind you, we had 10 acres of land, so there were no people behind me. So I would have the window open, the blinds up, and I would leave it cracked so the cat can come in and out of the house. One night, I'm laying in bed, and I hear a bump, 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 bump on the glass, like hard. But I saw no hand. There was no hand banging on the glass. But we lived in a mobile home, a trailer house. Okay, it is Texas. And
ain't nothing wrong with a trailer house. Lots of us was raised up in a trailer.
Yes. Well, other people, they're just like trailers. But, it was a damn good trailer. I liked my house. But they banged on the window, and it freaked me out. Of course, my overprotective big brother, he comes busting into my room. He's like, "Did you hear that? Are you okay? Was that you?" I'm like, "No, it wasn't me." And he automatically picks me up and moves me the hell out the way from the window because it is banging on the window. And then all the windows in the house and all the sides of the walls in the house. So the entire outside of this trailer, which is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath trailer. It's a very large one for its time. It was bigger than most double wides. And we hear banging on every single wall, every single door, inside and outside the house. And my dad wakes up, my mom wake up, and my dad, being the sheriff's deputy, he was like, "Here's the gun, darling." He hands my mom a gun, and he gets a gun, and they are like, "We're going to go outside. We're going to catch who did this, like who's doing this, because we're not getting robbed today." My dad was in full defense mode. Mind you, he's in full defense mode in his underoos, which is also fun. Well, he did. He had some little tidy whities on, and I remember him opening the back door. Now, in the older trailers, the laundry room was a separate little room, and the back door was at the laundry room. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have any steps. And it's really hard to knock on that door where the knocking was happening to begin with because there were no steps in the back door. There were only steps in the front door. Oh. And my dad was opening the door, and he could hear it. My mom could hear it. I could hear it. The banging on the door as the door was opening. My dad jumps out that back door with a gun and flashlight, and my mom jumps out, and they both... my mom goes one direction, my dad goes the other. The knocks are still happening. And they're running around the house trying to find who's doing it, only to bump into each other. And they could not figure out who the hell did it.
So in my mind, I'm seeing Keystone Cops and them trying to shoot each other.
Mm-hmm. Like, they almost had a stormtrooper moment, And, the whole thing is, about 10 minutes later, we get a phone call from another family that I'm very close with to this day. Very close with. I am auntie to said neighbor's kids. So it's a thing. Like, we all grew up together. We were all little redneck kids that hung out together. And his parents call. And they're like, "You can get your kids and tell them not to be knocking on our house." And my dad's like, "Get your fucking kids." Because it's not my kids. My kids are at home terrified. Then we get a call from another neighbor. "Is anybody knocking all over your house?"
Was that what it was? The fucking Ortega kids.
Mm-hmm. Well, blame the Mexican kids. Because we're bad. Because we're brown. And that's really what it was. It was like, well, it's got to be those Mexicans. Which is fine. Because it wasn't us. And we thought it was the white kids. So fine. And so... it was what it was. And but we, our friends, we all knew that it wasn't each other.
Yeah.
And the parents, though, they were being dicks to each other. And long story short, we couldn't figure it out, but it had terrorized four of our neighbors that night. Same thing, knocking on walls. At the one particular neighbor that called me first, the second oldest son told me on the way to school the next day that the couch cushions were raising up to the ceiling.
Right on.
In their house. And that's whenever they realized, because their dad had called us, that never mind, it's not the IYKYK kids, because they could not figure that shit out as to why the couch cushions were raising off the couch. And then it freaked him out, and God rest him, he died a couple years later. But it terrified him to see that, because it was proof of the other side. Then he was a little old redneck kid and just podunk, and it shocked him. With that being said, we started talking about it at school and started looking up things. And back in the day, we didn't have any computers, so we had Ask Jeeves barely. And we ended up looking through books, and we started looking at the West Explosion, or not the West Explosion, but the train crash, the West train crash. And we found out the location of said crash was very ironically close to where I live. So was the anniversary of that train crash within a day. And so then we're like, oh, wait a minute, that's the anniversary of the train crash. Now, my dad had done some research and found that there was an old cotton gin on our property towards the back end of the property. We had 10 acres, like I said, and about on acre 8, there was an old cotton gin. And
was there a sign up, acre 8?
Well, he had dug up a good chunk. We used to mow that with push mowers, dead ass. We didn't have riding mowers, so it was push mowers. There were 4 kids. Everybody got a mower, and we all just started mowing.
And
yeah, hashtag Mexican. And and so
listen,
we had gone out there.
The funny you won't, but there's two peoples that I don't make fun of when it comes to getting some shit done, and that's the Mexicans and the Amish people.
Right? Because we work hard. Okay, we worked, and our yard always looked good. All 10 acres of it was pristine, girl. Pristine. And we were fit. Okay, we got our steps in. Okay, we did steps before steps were a thing.
Right.
But I will say, he did take me out there, and we looked, and we dug up pieces of the old cotton gin. Supposedly, the story goes that the cotton gin had set fire right around the crash, and people were running house to house, banging on walls and everything they could to wake people up to come help the people that survived or that are being killed as they, as they were knocking, like they're burning to death.
Y'all, sorry, the Mastador Marauders are at it again. Sorry to interrupt if y'all hear all that crap in the background.
Oh, you're good. You're probably going to hear my chickens in a minute. And, but yeah, the story is that these people that were witness to the crash, or people that were trying to save people from burning to death, were knocking house to house. And we found it very spooky, including the librarian at the elementary school that we were at, because I was 5th grade roundabout, and it was a thing, because they were like, holy crap, like that happened on the anniversary of this crash, and that has to be what it was. Do we have any proof? No, but that's my theory. And what I found really interesting is that there were definitely spirits there on the property to begin with, and it only ever happened that one time on that anniversary, which was super spooky. But I will say, when my parents had separated, and I won't go into super big detail, but my mom was a bitch, and they separated, and and we moved out, and my dad was just kind of like sitting in the living room in his feelings, like you do, and he was just kind of bitching out loud about everything, and just letting out the feelings, as he should. You cope. Everybody copes like that. I scream into pillows. Okay. And
I have
said
sharp,
that.
stabby, pokey things. So yeah, I know.
Yeah. Well, he sat there and he was just bitching and venting, and he said whilst doing that, he felt like hands going around his throat, and that something was choking him while he was venting. And he was like, "I'm just bitching. Like, let it go, okay? I'm just bitching. I'm just bitching about everything. Stop." And it stopped. But he said he literally felt hands choke him. And it scared the shit out of him. And my dad does not scare easy. And he was like, that's when he realized that he needed to sell the house and the property because it was just too haunted to be in alone.
I have a question, though. Did the ghost collaborate and listen, or did he get your dad's pretty name out of his mouth?
He collaborated and listened and left my daddy alone. Because, like, my dad, like, super sweet pea. But if you piss him off, then he becomes Danny Trejo. Okay? And so...
I am vindicated!
It's like, because he can be, but you have to push him to that point, I think, to make him, like, rawr. And he was just like, no, I'm not going to play this shit. You're not going to haunt me. We're not doing this shit.
So
we're not doing it.
It was his version of when I told BBG, BBG, look here, motherfucker, we ain't doing this.
Yes, exactly. But he did decide ultimately, after that, to sell the house. And it perplexed my mom for a very long time. Like, why the hell would he sell the house and the property? Well, we weren't living there, for one, and we weren't using it. But for two, he was living there alone. And he was like, hell no, this place is haunted. Because once you don't have 4 kids in the house to blame noises on, and once you don't have a wife in the house to blame noises on, and kittens in the house to blame noises on, and you just have the noises. And, like, he said the dogs were going crazy, that he would notice, like, weird things moving, lights would be on when he knows he turned them off, things like that. And he was like, no, I and he was really honest. He's like, I didn't sell that out of spite. I sold that fucker because it was haunted.
Yeah.
So I fully believe him on that. And it was super haunted. And I think that, like, not many people realized it because there was just so many of us in the one house. I had, my brothers and myself. And, like I said, we had 2 cats. One was a horse. She's outside then. But, like, there were things that you could blame noises on. And there were things that you can blame odd occurrences on. But when you didn't have those, then there was,
facts,
nothing to blame it on. And so that's why he ended up getting rid of the property altogether, because it was extremely haunted.
I legit went to bed last night, and when I went to bed last night, the shower curtain was closed, and we have girls in this house, so there's all kinds of hair doodads all the time, and we have these little bitty tiny different colored rubber bands. Like, they get everywhere. It's an annoyance. I hate them, but at the same time, like, when I want to do Vanna's hair, they're nice to have. But they don't have a container. They come in a janky little box. They were sitting up on the cabinet. I didn't ever get to go sleep. Never heard nothing. Didn't ever get to go to sleep, rather, because my daughter called me. We haven't talked in a long time. We talked until 3:30 this morning. She says, Mama, you got to get up and do your podcast in the morning. You probably better go ahead and get some sleep. I said, you're right. So we hung up. I got up. I went to the restroom. I go in the restroom, and these tiny little freaking hair rubber bands are all over the freaking bathroom floor. Shower curtains wide the hell open. I'm like, okay, well, whoever likes to play with hair ties, could you at least just pick this shit up when you're done? And hey, do you mind closing the shower curtain when you're done? Because I have seen so much in my life that, like, little shit like that doesn't faze me. I am the only one in this house besides these 2 Mastador Marauders. They don't get access to the bathroom because they like to crap on my rugs. So they don't get to go in there. They were in the room with me the whole time. So I know it wasn't the dogs. Girls are gone for Christmas. Sister wife's gone for Christmas. husband got called out to work and had to go and leave for Christmas. So I am the only human being in this dadgum house. I know it wasn't me. I know it wasn't the dog. So I'm like, okay, fuckers, whatever. I don't have time for you. I have to get a nap. I have a podcast to record tomorrow.
And I really believe that most of the time we choose, because ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
And we choose to see things at face value. It must have been one of the kids. It must have been this or this. You know, there's so many of us in the house.
Most people do. But when you're spooky, you don't.
I will tell you, hands down, there's several occasions, because, like, honestly, West was not the first haunted house I lived in. I think we lived in 4 or 5 that were excessively haunted. And my mom would even vouch her for 2 or 3 of them. She used to tell me I was crazy. You're crazy. But then she would tell my stepdad, no, she's not crazy. I saw that too. I just don't want her to freak out, which honestly made me freak out more because then I thought I was crazy.
Right.
But I do think some of it is due to just like, I'm mildly spooky. I don't even know what to call it. It's just sometimes things happen around me.
Oh, yeah.
When I move into a home, if I had moved into my mom's for a little bit, a couple years back, before I got married, and they didn't have any spooky occurrences in their house until I moved in. And then they all started having spooky occurrences, and it stopped when I moved out.
I vouch for that because I have spent the night at your house and not had anything spooky happen in months and months and months. And like, true story, stay at your house and shit happens. Like but I am also mildly spooky, as you know. So it is one of those things. And I will tell you, I was thinking about what I was going to talk about on the pod today, and I had no idea what I was going to pick because there are so many stupid stories. But I'm going to tell you about Dr. Giggles. Are you ready? And
give me giggles.
This is seriously exactly what you were talking about. Most people turn a blind eye to it. Most people are, that didn't really happen, or they can always explain it away. As long as you can explain it away, it didn't happen. Mm-hmm. And last night, I'm the only one here. I know I'm the only one here. But there's been such chaotic emotions in the house with everything that happened that, and that, it's that energy. They play on that energy. And I was like, I don't have time for this, so, because you at least pick the fucking rubber bands up before you go to bed, stupid ghost, or whatever. But so I'm going to tell you about Dr. Giggles. And, again, it involves Lena. It's actually Lena's story, but I'm going to tell it because I was there. We lived in the same apartment. It was the first apartment. I started to tell this story the other day, but this is the story of the first apartment that I ever had outside of living with my family. I moved out for the first time. Lena and I and our friend Stace had a little apartment. I'm just going to tell you, it was Pepper Tree Apartments there in Robinson.
Oh, dude, I used to live there.
Yes! I loved Pepper Tree. It was so cool. But, so, Lena had a male guest for the evening. They had been dating for a while. I'm not going to change his name. He's passed on since then. His name was Tony. And Lena and Tony were in bed, and Tony was on the inside. Lena was on the outside. Tony was on the inside up against the wall. And I guess really it's maybe Tony's story, but I'm totally telling it because I was totally there and it was totally freaky. But, so Tony is cuddled up facing the wall and he sees this hand come up from between the bed and the wall, and it reaches over and tickles him, and it giggles. And he's like half in and out of it, half asleep, half awake. This was back in the day. We were not. Lena and I are the same age. We're within 2 days of each other. But we were not old enough to drink. We were in our late teens, or we were 20. We weren't 21 yet. We weren't old enough to drink yet. But Tony was, and so we had some beer, and we had a enjoyable evening. They went to bed. So anyway, like I say, Tony's laying there, and he's half in and out of sleep, you know, kind of buzzed a little bit, and this hand comes up from between the wall, and it tickles him, and it giggles. And he tells Lena, Lord love a duck, the Mastador Marauders. He tells Lena, I have to wait for them to get done, because boys, they don't care that I'm trying to podcast. So he tells Lena, hey, can you not tickle me? I'm trying to go to sleep. And she, from behind him, with her arm wrapped around his waist, is like, babe, I didn't tickle you. And he realized that she didn't climb up under the bed, because the bed is sitting on the floor. Like, it's a mattress and box spring on the floor, as you do when you're in your early 20s in your first apartment.
Oh, we've all been there.
And there's no way she could have, like, snuck up under the bed and reached her hand around and tickled him. And he jumped up and screamed like a little bitch and ran out of the room. And I wasn't in bed yet. I was, like, sitting in the living room. And you know how small, it was a 2-bedroom at Pepper Tree. You know how small those apartments were. So he's standing in the middle of, and to my recollection, he's standing in the middle of the hallway screaming like a titty baby, butt bookie ass naked, screaming about, make it go away. And I absolutely lost my shit. I was laughing at him so hard, because Lena and I are both just like, okay. And he was freaking out. There was something in that apartment that was not quite right. And we had this cat. Now, mind you, we did not set out to get a cat. And mind you, I am not a cat person. Like, they're okay for other people, and they're okay if they're outdoor, but I don't want a cat in my house. However, we wound up with this cat, and it's because we were on the upstairs apartment, and we opened the door, and he just walked his ass in one day. Big black cat, big green eyes. I'm trying to think right now what we called him. It was something spooky, and I can't think of what it was right now, but he was the chill dude. So I really think that maybe he was a familiar. He stayed as long as he wanted to, and we moved. He moved with us, and he stayed as long as he wanted to. And then one day he was like, "Yeah, fuck it, dude, I'm out. I'm bouncing." But we were sitting in the house one day. We were just chilling out, right? And we didn't have TV back in the day. Like I said, we were all in our early 20s, and we were broke AF all the time. And we didn't have a TV. So for our entertainment on days off, we would sit around and just make up wild, crazy stories where we were the heroine. They were like romance novels, and we were the heroine. And it was always like a sports figure or a rock god that was the hero in the story. And we would just make up these big, wild, crazy stories and tell each other. And I can't remember what we were talking about, but in the story, it was her turn to tell the story, and she says, answer the door. And the cat gets up from where he's laying on the coffee table, stretches long and luxurious, and hops down off the table, saunters over to our front door, and reaches his front paws up and wraps them around the handle and stretches out like he's really trying to open the door.
Holy shit.
And I was just like, that was really crazy. And there were a couple of other times where you would say something, not even in reference to him. I can't, like, it's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of that damn cat's name. But there were several other times where you would be talking and say something, and he would literally get up and try to do the action that you had just said. And he was pretty cool. I wish I could remember what we decided to call him, and I just can't. I can call her later, and she'll probably pop it right out. I know it started with an M. I feel like it started with an M. But yeah, that particular apartment, it was kind of creepy, but like I said, we were all just like, whatever. But the funniest thing that I ever saw in my entire life was Tony standing in the middle of the hallway, screaming like a bitch, butt bookie ass naked, balls just a swinging. And screaming because of a ghost. And, you know, at the beginning, and I told you, Lena had, for a long time, she had a ghost that was attached to her named George. That literally was his name. She did the research. She would have to tell you that story because I don't remember it all. But, you know, for the longest time we thought, well, maybe it was George that did that, but George never manifested like that. Anytime I ever saw George, he was more of a shadow person standing in a doorway, or like the time I told you in the second apartment when I just looked down the hallway and said, George, knock it off. I could see a shadow. It looked like there was a man standing just on the other side of the wall where I couldn't see him, and there was a shadow, you know, up the wall, like there was a light behind a man standing there. So, like, when we were young, when we were in our early 20s, late teens, early 20s, and stuff like that, I just had a ton of stories. I just have a ton of stories of stuff like that. But we decided that George never manifested that way. So we don't know who Dr. Giggles was. We don't know where he came from. He never showed up. I say it's a he. I don't know. It might have been a woman. But, you know, Tony was straight up, don't tickle me. I'm trying to go to sleep. And then he realized, no way to get under the bed. Lena's right behind me with her arm wrapped around my waist. That wasn't her. Holy shit. And he just was screaming like a bitch. So, you know.
Like a bitch.
Yes. And it's the thing. Sometimes you can chalk it up to other things. And sometimes there's just no denying what just happened.
Mm-hmm.
No denying.
I agree with that.
And, you know, people, you know, have you ever set something down and you know damn good and well you said it right there 5 minutes ago, and where the hell is it? Yeah. And people say, well, I must have been absent-minded. No, fucker, you've been pranked. They think it's funny to do shit like that.
But not only that, but I used to, during COVID, I used to clean.
Good old COVID.
During COVID, I used to clean hospitals. I cleaned a mental hospital. I cleaned a couple of doctor's offices. It's easy work. It's easy work. And they used to call me, what is it? Something loca. Because I was crazy for volunteering for the previous, it used to be a psychiatric ward, and they turned it into a office building. And, several times, and that place was fucking haunted. Like, I would walk in, and if I didn't have my earbuds in, it was going to be a bad night. And
hospitals are the worst.
Oh, psych hospitals are fucking top tier. And I would tell you,
margarita. We're talking, you know, the Red Rockers tequila in that bitch. You know,
totally. And like, when I started there, I realized quick I needed to keep earbuds in, and if I didn't keep them in, I would hear things. And you would hear people typing in cubicles in a wing that has been vacant all afternoon, and then you would walk in there and there would be nobody there. And it'll tell you how many people, everybody has a code to leave. All codes have been initiated. There's nobody in the building. There are no cars in the parking lot. It is just I. And so one day my earbuds died. And I'm in there cleaning, and you know, you're talking about, this is what made me remember things moving.
Yes. And
I had one of the giant wheelie carts with a trash can, and I'd go and I'd bust the offices, bust the break rooms, bust the fucking meeting rooms and all the things, and the bathrooms, all the shit. And so I would do all the trash first, then I'd do the wipe downs next. And I remember I was towards the end of my shift. I'd been there 2 hours. I was about to mop the whole goddamn thing. And that was a task on its own. It was right before Christmas. And they had one meeting room, a board meeting room, and then they had a really fancy one. And the fancy one had a big fireplace, and it was original to the building, and it was a hardwood floor, and it had a lip on it. So when you put that big ass trash can over that lip, it go foo-doom, foo-doom, because it had wheels on it. And so did my mop. And so I moved my trash can into the lobby, and I bring my mop and my bucket in there with the wheels. I do the ba-doom, ba-dooms. And I drag it in there, and I start mopping, and Murphy's oiling in that boardroom.
Oh, Murphy's oiling shit.
I go and I do their little bathroom real quick and mop that and clean their toilet. And then I come out to do the hardwood, and I hear putum putum. And then I hear rolling down the hallway, and I'm like, suspicious. And so I lean out, and I look, and my mop is gone. And I'm like, motherfucker. And then I hear, and it sounded heavier, and I'm like, son of a bitch. And so I go in there, and I look in the lobby. My trash can is no longer in the lobby. It's down the hall. And my mop is down the hall with the trash can.
Hey, they were on a date.
Huh?
They were on a date.
Yeah. And so, heart attack aside, I finished my job. I went through this lady's desk, and she had a radio. And I ran to my car and got a Typo Negative CD, and I put it in her little radio, and I turned it up really loud.
Quit channeling me, because I'm literally, when you're finished, going to tell you a story. Quit channeling me.
I don't mean to.
Oh my God.
But I put in this CD, and I'm listening to Peter Steele and his sexy voice. And I'm finishing my job, and I finish my job. I collect my CD. I put the lady's things back. I do take a Reese Piece cup out of her candy dish. I eat the Reese Piece cup, and I turn off all the alarms. I knew for a fact, because I always took pictures when I turned off everything in the lights in each room, so I can remember that I was turned off. So it's my checklist, right? Took pictures of every room with the lights off. Knew everything was off. I bring my ass to the front. I move my shit out, put everything where it needs to go. I'm throwing out trash. I lock and arm the codes and all the things. And then I'm walking past the front of the building to go to my car, and I look, and the fucking break room light's on. I'm like, motherfucker. And behind the break room, there's a window and then a series of offices. And those lights were on. And I'm like watching them simultaneously come on, and they're hospital lights, so you can hear them go click, click real hard. And I'm like, fuck. And I'm watching them turn on. So I call the security at the hospital. I'm like, yo, homies, like, somebody's in that building. They're like, no, there's nobody in there. And I'm like, okay, well, listen, y'all need to come out here. And so they came out here, and these are cops. These are not just security. The hospitals hire full-fledged cops to do security on the side. And these are fucking police, protect and serve, okay? And I love the police, don't get me wrong, but the popos are pusses in this certain
in this scenario.
Yes, in this scenario, because I'm telling them, and they were like, "What building are you in?" And I told them, and they were like, "Oh shit, that place is haunted." And I'm like, "Fuck!" And I was like, "Just come out here." And so they come out there, and I'm standing on the front porch of the awning. And I'm like, I have to run back in there, but I'm terrified as shit. Can one of y'all go in there with me? And they were like, we just told you it was haunted. And I was like, and I'm telling you, I know it's haunted, but I feel like somebody may be in there. Will you come with me? And he goes, I'll tell you what, I'm going to shine my light in the windows so you can turn off all the lights and we'll watch you. And I was like, aren't you supposed to protect and serve? And this guy looks at me dead ass and he goes, from the living, young lady. And he's like, I'm not going in there. It's fucking haunted. And he literally told me that. He's like, from the living. And so him and four of them were on shift that day. Him and his 4 buddies shine fucking lights for me. Like, shine lights. That's all they could do. And they were like motivating me, like cheering me on. They're like, go Ashley, you can do it. You know? And I'm like, you guys fucking suck. And I did. I undid the code and I ran in there and I could hear her, go girl, you got this shit, go. And I'm like flipping the lights off and I'm running out. And like, as I'm running out and I arm the alarms and they had confirmed, because they're giving me the thumbs up, they see that all the lights are off. I arm the code, I come outside and they're like congratulating me and they're laughing, you know, and they're having a good laugh. They had a really rough day and I got to hang out with them for a minute. They're really great guys. Yeah. And
even if they're pussies.
Except they're pussies with ghosts. But they while we were sitting there, one of them had given me a Dr. Pepper from their lunch because he's like, man, you look exhausted here. He's like, this has been the funnest afternoon. Like, we're glad to help you. Anytime you need help, we'll stand outside for you.
Listen, anybody that give me a Dr. Pepper is a damn national hero.
I know. And like they did offer to escort me to and from, and they did from then on out. And it was very interesting, except for when we were all about to drive away. And then the lights flipped back on and you could see it from the window. And
I knew you were going to say that.
I took a video of the one officer and sent it to my boss. And he's like, I watched her turn these lights off 4 times, Linda. And her name was Linda. So I used to be like, Linda. But he told her flat out, they keep turning on. And she's like, as long as you have confirmation that she turned them off. And he's like, she turned them off like 4 times. And like, she ain't running back in there. I'm not running in there with her. And Linda goes, it's okay. It's the haunted building. And I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, we kind of know it's haunted. That's why nobody wants to do it. That's why you get paid $9 an hour for this specific one. Because everything else she would pay $7.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was like, whatever. And it wasn't a lot of money because you're not doing a lot. It's an after hours bullshit job. But that's why you got paid $2 extra an hour, because that motherfucker was haunted.
Let me tell you what I told you to get out of my head, right? So, for some extra money, I was helping Lena out once where because she was working for a particular media company that I am not going to name, but they dabble in cable television, they dabble in mobile phones, that kind of thing. And I was working for her, and I had one particular store that I always went in, and I hated to be in that thing by myself. And it was it's a mobile store located in Temple, Texas. And what I mean by mobile is like you can't pick it up and move it around. The store sells mobile phones and stuff, but they called it the mobile store. I would go in. You had like X amount of seconds to get from the back door to the front to do the PIN code. And I would be armed with my earbuds before I ever opened that back door. Because that place was creepy AF, and I've seen some shit, and there's not a lot of shit that really creeps me out. Like I told you last night, I'm just like, I don't care. I don't have time for this shit. Can you at least pick up all the rubber bands before you go to bed? Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of that stuff doesn't, but that store creeped me out so bad. Like, you were not really supposed to do a whole lot. You had to dust and wipe down all of the counters and all of the places where they had the mobile phones set up for you to play with the displays. You had to dust everything, wipe everything down, take out all the trash from the front of the store, take out all the trash from the back of the store. My husband would come with me. I was married to my second husband at the time, and he would take care of all the trash for me. So all I had to do was like the dusting and the sweeping and stuff like that. I can't tell you how many times I was like, yeah, fuck it, the floor looks great, we're out of here. Not sweep a damn thing, not mop a damn thing. You know, spray some stuff down so it smells pretty like you did something. Like, I can't tell you how many times that we cheated because I was like, yeah, no, I'm tired of getting touched, I'm tired of getting pushed, I'm tired of just creepy McCreeperson spying on me. But you said the music, and I would have my earbuds in, and it would be Metallica, and it would be like cranked to like as loud as I could stand it. And I'm talking like not Metallica's easy shit. I'm not talking about I'm not talking about and nothing else matters or let's play some Enter Sandman. I'm talking about Lover Man.
You're in there with some ooh yeah.
But yes, the whole like the
bergamot and leather.
Bergamot and leather. I had to have me some Hetfield in my ears, and it had to be like the old stuff, like Creeping Death. Like, give me some Creeping Death, give me some Lover Man, give me some hard ass shit where I can't focus on my surroundings. Oh, and the front room, you had to vacuum, and it had a Kirby. And that son of a bitch was so heavy. You had to, you finally get done with the mobile store. Like, I would spot vacuum. Like, if there was something on the floor that was too small for me to pick up with my fingers, I would spot vacuum.
Yeah.
Other than that, like, I never vacuumed that whole bitch. I went, ran around the room, dusted everything down real quick, spot mop if it was really horrible, spot sweep if it was really horrible. My ex-husband David would take out all the trash for me, and we would be like, zip, 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 okay, oh, 10 minutes, we're out of here, dude. And like the whole time I've got Hetfield like screaming in my ears because I'm like, yeah, no thank you, I don't want to, we're not playing this, goodbye, I got to go.
And see, and that's the thing, is like most people don't realize like the one place that's going to be haunted is a retail establishment.
Dude.
Like, hands down, because there's so much energy and there's so much life that passes in and out of those stores.
Oh yeah.
Like, and so many accidents that happen near them, so many things.
Oh yeah.
Like, most people don't realize the most haunted places are places of business.
Mm-hmm.
My mom's old job, it's kind of a dying company, but I grew up in there all the time. And my mom, my dad would work crazy hours. He worked a lot of jobs. Sheriff's, he was in the sheriff's department, but he would do like security and stuff like that. So he was gone a lot. And she would take me to work with her. And that fucking building was haunted. And what's really crazy about that building, other than the fact that it was haunted, because we would see people walking and hear typing and talking. Oh yeah. There'd be nobody there. But the creepiest thing, which reminds me of our previous episode, Robert the Doll, most everybody that my mom worked with that had worked there for 15, 20 years, most of them ended up contracting cancer.
Oh, wow.
Most of it was either pancreatic or lymphoma.
Oh, wow.
And several employees had gotten it. And they don't know why. They checked the place for asbestos, all the things. There's nothing to cause it. But for some reason, several of the people there died of cancer. And to this day, I have one friend who ironically works there. And she does telecommunications. And she tells me all the time, this place is haunted. And I'm like, where is your desk? She's like, why are you asking? And I was like, because my mom's was a little bit off the hallway. There's a hallway in front of the break room, and you go about 50 feet, and there's my mom's desk. And her particular area was extremely haunted. Like, chairs would move through the cubicle hallways. And by herself, like, she would be sitting there, and a chair would just slide out. And she goes, oh, that's where my desk is.
You don't have to give an address, but give me an idea. What building is this?
Okay, so I'll tell you after we're recording, just for like legal purposes, because I don't know if I'm like supposed to name names or anything, but to get to it, basically,
girl, name names and tell tales after the
tales. But basically, it's uber haunted. I do know what I can say for those who are Columbo. The owner / creator of said place contracted cancer, lung cancer, I do believe. He was not a smoker, but he actually contracted cancer, told his family goodbye in a really nice way, like the day was normal, like I'll see you later. Called said secretary, I do believe, said there were papers that needed to be signed and taken care of at work. And he unalived himself in the front lawn. And so you can Google that one. It was a whole scandal. It was a very sad scandal. But I do know for a fact that place is ridiculously haunted. I've known people for the last 15 years that have worked there off and on that have told me how insanely haunted that building is. It's just very strange. I do know.
Crazy. Sorry, y'all. I had to step out. I had to get more coffee.
Oh, you're good. I went and grabbed me some leftover ham.
Oh, girl. I got that whole ham in the fridge. I'm so excited.
Oh, God, yeah.
Well, I mean, so the thing that boggles my mind is, and we kind of touched on it earlier, the thing that boggles my mind is that people just kind of turn a blind eye. But it's like, if you know, you know. But most of the time, you know, even if you don't know, you really do know.
Yeah.
Am I talking in circles?
No, because I totally get what you're saying. It happens to me quite often. Well, for instance, it's a weird, spooky thing that kind of happened to me a couple of months ago. A friend of mine
whom I love dearly. She had a relative pass away, and I was helping her cope.
Yeah.
She was talking through some feelings and all the things.
It wasn't me, was it? Because you do that with me all the time.
This time it was not you.
Oh, okay.
And but she needed some guidance and a shoulder, and I was there. Sorry, I'm getting some green bean casserole. I am. So
Dinka.
she was crying and she was a little upset, and I was like, I don't know why this is so important, but you need to look for a butterfly. Like right now. It's going to be like blue and pink and purple and shit. And she was like, what? And I was like, it's just really important. Look for this damn butterfly. It's just proof that somebody's around. And she kind of blew me off for a second. And she was, I guess she sounded irritated. And she went to look for her cigarettes. And she had, ironically, just bought one of those, your smoker anti-starter kits, like one of those little pouch cigarette things where it's got the little coin perch,
Yes.
And she grabbed that and she flipped it over, and that was, blue, pink, and purple butterfly. And I'm not really sure how I knew that, but it freaked her out. Which led to a lot more questions like, ooh, what else do you know? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not Miss Cleo, call me now.
Yeah, but you do that happened a lot. It does happen to you a lot, though, because as previously stated, even though we are best friends and have been for years, we currently live in 2 separate whole-ass states.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally was on the phone with this woman one day, and it was right before Thanksgiving, and I couldn't find my Thanksgiving list. Like, I had just had it on the bed. I was doing lots of things, trying to organize some stuff, and I had just had it. I could not find it anywhere. Like, I was tearing shit up. And Ash says, what are you doing? I said, I can't find my list because it has the menu and everything I have to buy. And she's like, look under the bed up against the wall. Like, just heavy sigh, like, oh my God, do I have to deal with this again? Look under the bed up against the wall, and I got my fat ass off the bed and crawled under that booger, and guess what? There was my grocery/menu.
Was it? I didn't mean to do it. I knew where it was.
Well,
it's just like, my husband, we'll call him Gary.
Well, that's his name.
Yeah. And, sure. And, we were supposed to go hunting with a really good friend of his. They're basically family. They're very good people. A wife didn't show up, cause she wasn't feeling well. And I looked at her husband and I was like, oh, it was cause she's pregnant, right? I was like, no, she's not pregnant. I was like, yes, she is. But okay. And then a couple days later, he calls my husband. My wife is pregnant. And how did your wife know? And my husband's response, and classic Gary response, is, oh yeah, she's a fucking witch or something. And,
that sounds just like Gary.
Well, he didn't know what to say. But you just know.
When you know,
sometimes you just know.
When you know, you know. And even if you don't want to know, you still know. And you can't pretend that you don't know because you know. I just, listen, I've been there, I've done it, I've heard it, I've seen it, the whole nine. As long as we've been friends, and as many things as we have discussed, and as many times as we have willingly or unwillingly tapped into that stuff, you can't deny that stuff's out there. I've seen too much in my almost 50 years of life to not believe. Now, whether do I believe it's a ghost, an interdimensional human, a demon, a whatever, you don't know. I watched this lady, I watched this lady on TikTok, and I absolutely adore her. She calls herself Auntie Colette. She used to be a medium, and she has since renounced it. She's found Christ, and that's great. You know what? I have found Christ. I've been a believer. I was baptized when I was 13 years old, and I'd cuss like a sailor, and it happens. But at the end of the day, the Lord knows I didn't mean to. But I watch her, and she talks about so many things, but one of the things that struck me, and I kind of pulled Ash aside one day, and we had this whole discussion about it, was if you are talking to anything that is not alive and breathing, you're talking to a demon. She full on believes that you're talking to a demon, and I full on don't believe that. As much as I enjoy her content, as much as I agree with most everything she says, that thing I take umbrage with, because I have proof, undeniable proof, things that, you can't deny that is that person coming back to comfort you or help you in some way, shape, form, or fashion. That's just the way I believe. That's the way I feel about it. What about you? As I wait until your mouth is completely full of food. Sorry.
No, it's totally cool. Like unedited, raw. It's alright.
Heck yeah.
No, I believe that too. I don't believe the demon thing. I don't, and I'll tell you why. Since I was a little girl, in times of need, after my grandmother passed, she visits me in dreams.
Same with my granddad. Up until about 10 years ago. He stopped coming to me in my dreams about 10 years ago. But we also discussed why that was too, and we don't need to go into that.
I don't know what they are.
You don't know where your animals are? I will go help you find them in 2 seconds, okay?
Oh no, the buggy's up.
I guess up.
That's gonna signal the end of recording for us today. We want to thank you guys so much for listening. We encourage you to go check out our TikToks. She's Chainsaw Dolly at TikTok. I'm Michelle Santo, MICHELLESZANTO at TikTok. Drop us a line in our email. It is TheSpookinessofitAll at gmail.com. We appreciate you guys so much for listening. Thank you. Let us know what you think and give us ideas for what you think you might want to hear in the future. Other than that, we're going to go ahead and do our outro, and we'll see you guys on the next pod. Well, guys, that's going to do it for our episode today. Thanks again for listening. We love you guys so, so much. Never be afraid to jump in the conversation. You can always email us at TheSpookinessofitAll at gmail.com. And you can always catch us on TikTok. I'm at Michelle Santo, MICHELLESZANTO. And she is
at Chainsaw Dolly on TikTok. It's just how it sounds.
So just so that you're aware, you can always reach us that way as well. With all of that being said, we hope that you guys stay spooky, and we love you so much. Keep listening, keep spreading the word, and just remember, she is still Ash Ortega.
And she is still Michelle Santo.
And you are still listening to The Spookiness
of It All.